All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. Going to be getting into a Sunday 4-game slate. Not really going to touch on the 2-game slate because there is still kind of some injury news that we're waiting on. I kind of just feel like that'd be a waste of your time pretty much. Until we get that news, that's going to change the whole dynamic of a 2-game slate. So just going to be concentrating on the 4-game slate here. So just looking at the injury situation, now this is going to be for the full slate. We do have a lot of kind of injury news, okay? The biggest thing is that we have a lot of players that are currently kind of game time decisions that could really change the whole dynamic of the late slate, especially with the Phoenix Suns. Campaign questionable, Chris Paul questionable, DeAndre Ayton questionable. Those players could all shift the whole dynamic of this slate. So we got to wait and see what that news is. Now, my expectation would be that Ayton and CP3, who were kind of expected to play yesterday, sat out because it was the front end of a back-to-back. So I kind of expect them to play on the back end of this back-to-back. Just how many minutes will Chris Paul play? That's the biggest question mark we have, especially with the Phoenix Suns. But I did mention Campaign could be back, okay? Shamit could be back. So they could finally be somewhat healthy. So that's an interesting situation there. Then lastly, we do have like Jokic and LeBron currently questionable. I'm expecting them both to play. Obviously, if they change, their statuses change, that changes the dynamic of the slate as well. If Jokic sits, we're looking at Jamal Murray. We're looking at Aaron Gordon, MPJ. If LeBron were to sit, then you'd just be looking at Westbrook, probably a little bit of Thomas Bryant, maybe Gabriel. But that'll all be stuff that I'll touch on throughout the video. So looking at right now, and if we just sort it by the DK main slate, we can show you guys who are the top values on the slate, and we're going to start off with FanDuel. So looking at FanDuel, Josh Hart is popping up as the best value. We can see he is kind of priced up though, so maybe not really a lock and load. And I think the thing we're going to see here is that the pricing is probably correct across the board, both today on FanDuel and DraftKings. At least that's what it's showing us right now on FanDuel, because Dylan Brooks, not really an elite play, but on FanDuel kind of popping up there is going to pop up a little bit more on DraftKings. Same thing with Simons there. A little bit cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings, but far from a lock and load. MPJ, you could say MPJ is pretty cheap play there. Torrey Craig would be a good play if those Phoenix Suns players sit. And let's just see his projected minutes, 26. Okay. Jokic is actually popping up there. That is a very cheap price tag for him, especially going against OKC. That'd be a matchup to target there. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Very interesting there. I kind of like that. 15% projected own right now on FanDuel as well. Interesting stuff there. Very interesting there. Okay. And then obviously the biggest worry in that game is the potential for a blowout against OKC, but he should still get his points there. That's interesting there. Continuing on, shy a little bit. Let's look at DraftKings value. So DK value going to be more the same. You got KCP popping up there a little bit. We can see significantly cheaper on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel. Looking at it, the ownership is going to be pretty high there. So if he is someone that is chalky on DraftKings, maybe you don't have to force it in there. If he gets above, I would say probably 25% owned on the small 4-game slate. If he's like top 5 owned, I don't feel like we need to force him in there. He's a good kind of pay down play. But if he gets too chalky, I would say there's logic to fading him, especially in GPPs and cash. You could probably eat the chalk. Draymond Green casually popping up there. Not great, but not terrible. And you can see across the board, extreme chalk. And we can see Draymond has been on kind of a tear recently, okay? And I would say that's the biggest reason. What was a little bit shocking to me in the last game was that Kuminga was back, okay? And I kind of thought, hey, maybe with Kuminga back, Draymond will not be as successful. And that could end up being true, but in that 1-game sample size, I guess Draymond sat out. Okay, so yeah, we don't know. My apologies there. Yeah, we don't know yet. So do we want to take a wait and see approach on that? That's a tough one to figure out. Because, yeah, that's right. The Warriors sat out their starters in the previous game. So if he is this chalk, that's just a very interesting thought process there. I guess it depends on how chalky he is come lineup block. Because right now, 22, that seems pretty high for DraftKings. I would say you don't need to force him in there with Kuminga back. And maybe you just go to Kuminga instead of Draymond. Although I wish the price point was much, much cheaper for Kuminga there. That's difficult because they're pretty much fully healthy now. It's not like you could pivot to Looney either. If anything, especially with Jermichael Green back as well, if anything, they're all going to eat into each other's production. So just an interesting thought there. And while we're at it, I want to say there's the possibility that Jermichael, if he gets 15 minutes, and let's see his minutes, probably 0. Yeah, 0. If we haven't projected to get 15 minutes, there's a possibility that you could play him just at that cheap price. Obviously, small 4-game slate, trying to search for value, scratch and claw for some value. Apparently, we don't have that. I'm just kind of curious. I'm going to sort by price point here. Okay, so the best players under 4K, Joe Harris, Pat Bev. Yeah, we're just not getting pretty good values here. So maybe it's going to be more of a fair and balanced approach, lineup approach wise. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the lineup builder, showing you guys kind of the value for the early slate, just touch on it real quick so you guys can see it. Powell popping up there. Dyson Daniels actually should be a pretty good play. So if you are doing the early slate, Dyson Daniels, Tim Hardaway's kind of popping up there as well. But let's get into the main slate. So drop down menu, click main slate. Click change. Okay, so looking at, we can kind of see the ownership is pretty much spread out. So typically I like to see like where are people starting their builds out with, and we don't really see a very strong starting point. I mean, Josh Hart people are playing, but like there's no like I need to play Jokic, I need to play Shai, SGA, I need to play LeBron, I need to play Ja, maybe a little bit of Lillard at 24, but we can see there's not like a direct person that people are going out of their way to play off the start. So let's look by projected ownership. We got Josh Hart, Yusuf popping up there, Aaron Gordon. I don't mind Aaron Gordon at that price tag, especially against OKC. I'm fine with that. Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, a Highland. So Bones Highland would become a much better play. He's currently questionable as well, but he'd be a much, much better play if Jamal Murray were ruled out. Jamal Murray's currently questionable as well. I guess if one of those two were ruled out, the other one would benefit a little bit more. But more so, Bones would benefit if Jamal Murray was ruled out. And Jamal Murray's been on a tear. I kind of thought, given the price tag, I thought his ownership would be much higher. I kind of thought he'd be the chalk today. So that's an interesting spot there for him in a pretty good matchup. So I think that could be a spot that we're loading up on. And then Bruce Brown's a decent play as well in that same kind of for the same logic as Highland and Jamal Murray. Any players that are low owned that shouldn't be? I would say Curry. That's a cheap price tag for him. Westbrook would be kind of a lock and load if LeBron were ruled out. And I'm kind of a little bit shocked at the price decrease. 2 bad games against Houston and Sacramento, but then right back to 45 DK points. As long as he's getting those minutes, he's going to be getting over 40 DK points. So that could possibly be a leverage spot going against Portland. So the last time out against Portland, Westbrook had 25 fantasy points, DK points, but only on 23 minutes. So if you do give him, just say maybe 10 more, maybe 9 more, the chances are he probably would have got to 40 DK points. Just searching for anyone else popping up. That's a little bit too cheap. Obviously, pretty much these 3, if we get news that all the Suns players are sitting, these 3 would literally become chalk again, and probably chalk that we'd have to eat. Okay, so now looking at FanDuel, where are people starting their builds out? Not really Jokic, so that could be a great leverage spot right off the bat. Obviously, great matchup. Kind of expect him to really go off in that one. Interesting there. Then from there, maybe a little bit of Lillard, maybe a little bit of Kyrie, Josh Giddey a little bit as well. Let's look at percent ownership. Simons, interesting. That's just extremely interesting. People just want to chase that game. I have to pull up the betting odds now. So just pulling up that game. Portland favored to win by 6 now. Okay, I think that changed a little bit as the day went on. And it does have a high over and under, but it's not like that much higher than all the other games. That's very interesting to me. It doesn't feel like we need to eat any of that chalk, especially on FanDuel, where it's like extremely higher than everyone else in that price point range. I don't know. That's pretty interesting to me. I don't know if you need to eat that chalk. But that's enough with the ownership talk. Obviously, that can be more for the Discord chat. That's going to be live before lock. Make sure to check that out as well, guys. Link to that is in the description below. So first look build wise, where are we looking at? Like I mentioned, like Curry could be a good play, especially at a lower ownership. It wouldn't be shocking to see him get around 50 DK points. So that could end up being a pretty big leverage spot, especially if people are going to be, defaulting to Ja Morant and a little bit of Damian Lillard. That could easily be a good spot. I know Lillard has been going off, and I'd probably say, yes, we do prioritize Lillard over Curry. But if Curry is like a fourth of the ownership, could be a nice spot. And earlier on this season, Lillard did go for 52 DK points. So I think that would be your kind of expectation for Lillard tonight. But in that game, who did we see popping up on the OF index, or just in general? Who was popping up? Where should we be making our starting point? And I like to use this. I kind of like to see the lowest price player that is really popping up there. So we see maybe a little bit of Jaren Jackson, maybe a little SGA. So those would probably be starting points for me. It is kind of suggesting, hey, fair and balanced approach could be the route to go. And I actually don't mind that at all. We could usually go 2 centers, Nick Claxton and also DeAndre Ayton. Let's try that. I kind of like the fair and balance there because we can go Jaren Jackson, Ayton, Claxton, Giddey, Bane, Murray. That's pretty good. Let's take a look at that. And then Hart as well. So Hart was the one that was popping up the most talk-wise, 5.1. And see, like, it doesn't feel like a must play. I find this very interesting. I don't know if you need to eat the chalk, although on a small 4-game slate, it does somewhat make sense to the point where, all right, let's lock in some raw points. Let's get that 25 or so DK points. I don't mind that, but at the same time, it is a little bit strange. All right, so we have Yusuf and then we have Nick Claxton. Those were the 2 centers that were popping up as like strong price point plays. We can see it. Yusuf, it needs to be a close game. Okay. And then he could really go off. We saw the first game against the Lakers, nothing spectacular. 30 minutes, 29 DK points. And it's not like anyone's out for Portland that's saying, yes, we need to play them more. So that's just kind of interesting. I do like Nick Claxton, though. He is someone that continues to get a lot of minutes. And now he gets a good matchup going against the Golden State Warriors. That to me is going to be highly intriguing, highly interesting. And so I'd probably prioritize Claxton over Yusuf. And then we had Jaren Jackson Jr. really popping up there. Kind of a strong price point play. The question is, why not just roll with Steven Adams, who has been on a tear? Just been a stud lately in a pretty good matchup going against Phoenix, especially if DeAndre Ayton's out. We want that game to stay close, and that'd be the biggest worry is that game not staying close. If it does, he should probably get around 30 minutes, maybe 28. I don't know. That's a very interesting play, especially if Ayton is out. It wouldn't be shocking to see Adams get a double-double. So, yeah, it's just looking at Jamal Murray. If he does play, I think we're just rostering him, kind of continuing to roll with the hot hand. And honestly, if he gets his low over the last 5 games, 33 DK points, we would certainly take that. This is a very strange price tag, especially going against the Thunder, which should, in theory, be a really good matchup. I mean, he has consistently been, hitting or getting above this price point for quite a while now. If you look at the last game against OKC, 34 DK points, which at 6.8 on a 4-game slate, you would definitely take. So that's a strange price tag. It just is. Then looking at, yes, we had Bane really popping up there. He has been extremely consistent really over his last 4 games. Pretty strong matchup. Obviously went for 45 DK points against the Suns the last time out. Can easily plug and play him into the shooting guard spot. And then from there, we had Josh Giddey kind of popping up there as someone we'd want to play at a certain price tag or at this current price tag. He has been someone that has been highly consistent. I would say this is a little bit too high priced for a game that could potentially blow out. And, he could be someone that doesn't get his final rotation. So that'd be the biggest worry with him is not getting that final rotation. And if you look at what he did in the first game against Denver, only 25 DK points. Now he has been much more consistent as a fantasy producer as of late. So that's going to be the encouraging part. I don't know. I might just go with Westbrook there. I guess we can't. We don't have that much salary left over. All right. Dylan Brooks was someone that was popping up. We could play him at the small forward spot, hoping for 25 DK points. This is getting tough. Maybe we do eat the KCP chalk. Yeah. Probably. Don't love it, but we're just asking for 25 or so points on a small 4-game slate for now. Hopefully better plays open up. Now we got to find a small forward. Probably just have to go Josh Hart. I think that might just be the move that we need to make there. MPJ was someone that was popping up. Let's see him again. I feel like I'd rather play MPJ and hope for 30 DK points from him. It's a 4-game slate, guys. It's tough. Yeah, let's go MPJ there. Then we got 4.4 left over. Then I would say we just take the wait and see approach. Maybe just plugging Gabriel for now. Guess we could go Brandon Clark as well. He's been a pretty consistent fantasy producer. And then that way we're kind of, in a way, getting 4 players that are center eligible, which, is obviously kind of nice because you get some rebounds, a little bit of a buffer with the rebounds. So as you can see, kind of just a weird slate. It just really is with the ownerships, the way that they're looking this early. And once again, just be in the Discord chat before lock because this stuff will most likely change before lock. But the way it's shaping up right now, it just makes for a very interesting game theory type slate. And I try to make a pretty good fair and balanced build for you guys, just to kind of show you guys that. And it seemed like solid, but at the same time, there's a lot of risk in there. So I think that's kind of the theme tonight is that people are trying to go game stack to kind of take out the risk. So they're trying to bet on a game going off. And obviously if a game goes off, the majority of the players from that game are going to go off. So I think that's the approach that people are going with. And that's why we're seeing some kind of strange ownership spikes. So hopefully you guys found this video useful. If you did, give a like and subscribe. If you guys want access to any of the tools that you saw in this video, make sure to click the links in the description below. All right, thanks for watching and good luck.